Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to the one, the only, the RaceFace.Pro iRacing GT3 Championship Round 2 at the Nürburgring Grand Prix. It's going to be our endurance round tonight, which means it is 80 minutes of racing with a mandatory tire change. And, well, the weather is looking a bit rough out on the circuit, and our drivers are heading into qualifying to see what they can do here tonight and where they're going to stand at the top of the order. Talking about top of the order while the drivers are out on circuit, let's go and take a look at who is where in the points for our top 10 in each of our divisions. Kicking things off with our Pro-Ams, it is going to be likes of Tommaso Bergesso in first place with James Pepper and Steve Pepper in second and third. Benjamin England holds on to third place with Jan Engelbrecht, Kakleko McCarley, Wesley Lewin, Matteo Malani, Tiana Sports, and Stephen Cakebread round out our top three. And then taking a look at our Pro division in terms of our championship results. It's going to be Justin Elof, Malcolm Pringle that will be fighting it out, looking to stay right into the top. We'll just clear that up so it's a little bit easier. Noah Hendricks, Willem Buerta, Warwick Wilson, Jean van Rensburg, Steven Vessels, Werner Skuman, Doug Gerber, and Cameron Rastos round out our top running. So that is our top 10 for the championship as it stands. And currently we've got Michael Hodgson out on track along with Jaden Uhl, Chris DeSantos out on circuit as well, Jacques Creel, James Pepper, all getting ready for their initial run at the qualifying. And it's our pros currently hoping to get out a little bit shortly with the Pro-Ams currently on circuit. That being said, it's going to be a monumental fight, and drivers are going to have to be well aware of the circumstances of the weather conditions not playing into their favor. I mean, if we go and take a look off the roll bar of the Aston Martin of James Pepper, you can see exactly how misty it is out there. It was raining a little bit earlier, and drivers will have to see whether they can keep it on track and keep going, or are they going to land up battling with the circuit. Taking a look over that, we've got Liam Swinburne jumping into the grandstand, saying he made it on time due to traffic and updates not working out in favor of some of our drivers. Unfortunately, some not able to make it to the circuit here tonight, and we'll have to go and watch from the sidelines this time round. So James Pepper out, he's looking to get ahead of his father, Rian Pochlita, Alan Circuit, Sean Berg, along with Andre de Ries chasing them down. Wesley Lewin, Willem Pinar, Matteo Malani is finding out the Sean Sims, Robbie Teens, Mark Pelser, Tiana Sporta, Ben England, Devin Ellis, along with Jan Engelbrecht, Lucan Haynes, Henny Pochlita, Arno Kraus, and rounding out our AMs at the moment, it's Stephen Cakebread in the Voluven colours. So, with times looking to be put on board, who is going to be first to claw their way to the top? Let's keep an eye on the prize for our drivers as they're looking to stay at the sharp end of the field. However, they've got to really battle it out for time here. This circuit is synonymous for going and putting a wheel off track, getting an incident point, invalidating, and we have got one driver, Matteo Malani, who is currently sitting with wet weather tyres, where the rest of the drivers are sitting on dries. James Pepper sits with a 2-minute 0.2, with Sean Sims going and chasing him down, hoping to get that a little bit closer in terms of his time with a 201.8. Chris DeSantos moves himself up with a 201.858. Michael Hodgson up into third. Sean Sims, Jan Engelbrecht, and Wesley Lewin. Matteo Malani up into sixth place with a 206. Devin Ellis moves up into second place with a 201. Stephen Cakebread at 203 ahead of Young Engelbrecht's 205. Kakleko McCarley drops in behind as 11 have so far put a time in. There's a couple of our Pro-Ams still yet to get a time on. And that's the likes of Jen Newell, Mario Augusto Morano, Jacques Grill, Rian Pochlita, Sean Berg, Andre de Ries, Willem Pinar, Robbie Teens, Mark Elsa, Ben England, Luke Haynes, Henny Pochlita, and Arno Kraus. Steve Pepper out of this race, and that is due to work commitments. So unable to be out on circuit, and will be watching from the sidelines and supporting his son, who is currently out on track. So as we go into the roll-off of the Aston Martin, made its way through the Schumacher S as the Cool Camel Racing, hoping to carry a lot of momentum through now. Will be late on the brakes into the MGK chicane, able to get his way out of it. And is this going to be a good time? Because Ben England puts in a 201.0, 0.7 of a second between the two of them. And James Pepper with tremendous understeer on the outlap, now trying to get a better time. He does come across the line with a 159.5, able to put a 1.5 second gap to go and open up to Ben England at the moment, who will be firing back in that BMW, really trying to open up the space to Henny Porchita, the Racing Snails, going and seeing what they can do. The Snails pace racing of Ben England will be charging his way up towards the top. So don't get the two confused. We have got the Racing Snails and the Snails Pace Racing out on circuit. Ironically enough, they are a quick team and will carry on their fight. Valentino up into 17 as more times getting flooded on the board. Tiernas Berta for the Pandacity team puts himself up into first place and carries on the momentum with that 159.1, so close to a 158 as the track is drying up compared to the last time. But now they'll have to see what they can do. A couple of drivers still getting times on the board, not able to have too much success. Jaden Ewell, Mark Pelser, and Luke Haynes still trying to figure out their feet at the moment. James Pepper with a 59.5. Devin Ellis up into third place with 159.870, 0.6 of a second separating him at the moment as they continue on the charge, trying to chop those times down. Slowest of the bunch, Willem Pienaar sits with a 204, and even behind him was a driver that picked wet weather tyres for a dry circuit, and that's Matteo Milani sitting on a 206. Luke Haynes up into first place with a 158.6. Our first driver to break into the 58, now trying to do everything he can to move forward. 2 minutes left in our Pro-Ams qualifying, with 3 drivers yet to get a time on the board, and when it hits 10 minutes, it's done, and we release our pros out onto the track, who are chomping at the bit, going and wishing to be there. James Pepper, a 158.4 on that last lap, managing to get 0.2 of a second ahead of Luke Haynes at the moment. Tiernas Berta will be looking to fire back. Mario Morano will be trying to also close down the distance. 6th place all the way out from Brazil in that mad Mustang at the moment, hoping that he can close up that little bit of a distance, get into the top 5. Christos Santos moves himself into the top 5 as he comes blasting on by. He gets knocked down by Johan Engelbrecht, who flies at him to try and move forward. So we're already seeing all this momentum carried forward. Who's going to be at the top? Who's going to be able to stand their way to the top, as drivers just pushing it that little bit more, trying to see where exactly it's going to work out for them and where they need to draw the line on pace. 2 drivers unfortunately haven't got a time on the board, and that's Jaden Ewell and Rian Porchita, who's trying to get that little bit more momentum underneath him. Here he comes. Is it an invalidated lap? Is it a good one? Rian Porchita puts his foot flat against the ground and comes across the line. Unfortunately, lap invalidated, unable to improve. Jaden Ewell starting to make his way to the top. Only 20 seconds left of our Pro-Am qualifying, and James Pepper holds the top with Luke Haynes and Tiernas Berta chasing him down in third place. Devin Ellis, Andre Doris, Johan Engelbrecht, Robbie Teens, Christos Santos, all moving around, trying to figure out what they can do to stand at the top, where they can fight it out at this point of the game. So our pros will be going out onto the circuit. One of the pros, unfortunately, we won't be seeing out on circuit because I don't quite see him on my timing screen, but I do see him out in the virtual grandstands going and supporting. It's Jacques Ever going and supporting and saying, how's it, and wish you all well. Good luck for tonight. It's good to see past and present drivers going and supporting one another. John Jans van Rensburg out on the track with Byron Kutzer, Cameron de Bastos, Willem Buerta, Rian Porgita, Xander Cossins, Noah Hendricks, Malcolm Pringle, Werner Skuman, along with Warwick Wilson, Justin Elof, Stephen Vessels, Joshua Syme, and Liam Swinburne, rounding out the pack. Drivers hoping to get themselves up to the top. Remember, James Pepper's time, a 1:58.4 to beat. And you can see the pros already starting to warm up those tires, looking to get themselves organized, get themselves going, and looking to move forward. Willem Buerta wanting to just keep going and is right behind likes of Van Rensburg. He wants to try and just get round, get going, not waste time in that RDSA Esports Mustang, and is stuck, unfortunately, behind Jean Janssen van Rensburg as he's prepping his tires. That little bit of a weave left to right to try and get themselves sorted out to make sure that they stay towards the sharp end of the field. Quick look at the weather though, and we can see humidity is extremely high. It is cloudy with a 23 degree track temperature at current, 15 kilometer wind that's lurking around. The drivers will have to keep that well enough aware because this is rain conditions that can come down, and we had it in practice. It can come down for the race a little bit later. So drivers on their outlap ready to go. Let's see what they can do as we take a look on board with the likes of Jean Jans van Rensburg on the BMW M4 GT3 heading down towards turn 1. It's late on the brakes, keep it wide, and in the corner tightens up on you on the right-hander. You open the steering up and prep yourself for the long left-hander of the Mercedes Arena. It's a late apex and then boost your way out late on the brakes as the corner tightens up underneath you. You want to hold far left-hand side, quick switch to the right, and try and drag the nose with you, not to understeer too far out. Game on, down towards our left-hander. It's going to be past the cones on the brakes, down the gear, little feather of the throttle coming into play, into second through the long right-hander, and now it's a long straightaway down towards the hairpin. This is where we're going to see most of our follow the leader, our slipstream moments before hard braking into the hairpin. You keep it nice and tight and carry the momentum through. You don't want the rear to slip out underneath you. You don't want to understeer out as you make your way to the Schumacher's S's. You've got to have a lot of faith in your car and in the setup to carry the momentum through, but it's so easy to put a wheel wrong and start picking up those incident points. Late on to the brakes, down to second gear, carry the momentum through. It's a high second into a long third gear right-hand corner as you accelerate on your way up. It's going to be a little bit of a kink now, not too much of a corner to worry about. You keep your foot firmly flat, but you can see the pedal still stationary there as it's not been utilized. Hard braking into the NGK chicane, down to first gear, a gentle over the curbs you go. That can quite easily pick you up and throw you into the crowd, into our final corner. Hard braking zone to try and keep it all in check to get the run, heading down towards turn 1. And so far at the top of the cart, it is Werner Skuman with a 1:57.5. Jean Jans van Rensburg into 9th place. Willem Buerta a bit further down into 7th. Malcolm Pringle trying everything he can. Werner Skuman, the first car to get into the 157s, now has Stephen Vessels, who's having a go at him. Remember, Stephen Vessels was originally a winner in round 1. He's fighting against Justin Elof from the Pandacity team in that Lamborghini, hoping to keep the momentum going. Had a rather successful run in the F4s last night, and now looking to see if he can carry that same momentum forward here tonight and keep the charge up to his teammate, who currently holds the top of the cards. Cameron de Bastos out in 5th, trying to make his way through. In the McLaren, he does have one of the BMWs just joining in a little bit around him. I think that might have been Joshua. Yes, it was Joshua Syme with the Snell's Pace Racing team. Unfortunately, rejoining and forcing Cameron to keep tight left all the way through, losing that bit of time. So drivers still trying to figure out what can they do to stand at the top. We are getting notes as well, quickly coming through, that we got our Pro-Am leader finally joining up with us. A little late, but always coming around. We've got Tommaso Guglielmo, who unfortunately will not be able to get a quality time put together for himself as a pro-am driver, but he has exited the circuit, and he is going to try get a time on the board. I'm not quite sure if that's going to work out for him, or if the drivers are going to let him know, listen, that's not quite how it's going to run. But he's going to give it his absolute best out on circuit. Werner Skuman flat out across the line, 157.5 to beat. Is this going to work out for him? Yes, a 157.9 as he jumps up into first place. Steven Vessels, who currently holds on to second, keeping an eye as Van Rensburg moves up. Malcolm Pringle with that 157.9 dethrones Steven Vessels from that second place. Steven coming across the line, unable to improve. Justin Eloff with a 157.5. Steven Vessels of 57.552. So he was able to improve a little bit. Apologies on that one, but not enough to put him into first place. Malcolm Pringle and Byron Kutzer hold on to the top 5. James Pepper still keeps ahead of Cameron de Bastos and John Janssen van Rensburg. Noah Hendricks and Liam Swinburne keep each other company down in 11th and 12th at the moment, as Liam going and having a bit of a run. It looks like we may have had a huge jump coming in from Noah Hendricks up into the top 5 and still putting in the chase. Liam Swinburne is going to try and flat out battle him. Willem Buerta and Xander Carstens continue their charge, and they're sitting just out of that top 10, sitting in 14th and 15th position. Warwick Wilson down at the back has yet to put a time together that will put him further up with these pro drivers. He's in 37th position with Tommaso going and gaining ground on him, but at the moment sitting with a 206.9 is miles off the pace. We'll have to see if he can really close the distance at this current stage of the game. Otherwise, going to be at the back of the grid, and unfortunately going and hemorrhaging points. It is an 18-minute race, so it is a very, very long race for the drivers to go and compete in, with one mandatory pit stop with a tire change to slow the drivers down and bring things a little bit into strategy for the technical round. Quick jump over the curbs to Steven Vessels for the CSA team, trying to move forward. It isn't quite a Porsche, but the BMW's doing well. Willem Buerta up into second place. Malcolm Pringle up into third. Justin Eloff will be trying to fire back at the moment, as it's a simple park and wait moment. Justin Eloff booting his way around. Is it an improvement? Unfortunately not, but Liam Swinburne puts himself into the top 5 and chases right onto the back of the McLaren of Warwick Wilson at the moment, trying to see if he can clear at this point. Not able to get it done. The Mercedes and McLaren working with one another now. Liam Swinburne, who was part of the Katsune Racing team, has now been moved to the Majors Garage Racing team and is finding it out there, learning from the IMSA drivers. It's good to see him going and having a ton of fun. So great to see the drivers going and giving it their absolute all. However, Tommaso is able to get a time on the board. He's up into 22nd position, 10th in class, and continues to try and circle their way around. But with time running out, I do think this is going to be a last-ditch effort for the drivers to get a 156.51 of Werner to be beaten out. Steven Vessels so far the closest with Willem Buerta. However, none of the drivers are going and really hitting those great times like Werner Skuman, who's up in Sector 3, up in Sector 4, heading into the final sector. Is this going to be his absolute monster of a run? Werner Skuman is coming around the final corner and will be booting across the line. Unfortunately, not as high as he would like it to be, but still holds on to that first place for now. Steven Vessels will be the next one through. Improvement in the second, third, and fourth sector. Can he make a big improvement in the fifth? Willem Buerta down in 3 sectors, up on everyone in the fourth sector, and unfortunately not able to improve for Steven Vessels. Willem Buerta will come across the line, and he sits, unfortunately, not a time that he would like. Liam Swinburne next to come through as he gets beaten out by Cameron de Bastos, and Willem Botha. Liam Swinburne down into 6th. Noah Hendricks for the Asymmetric Racing team now continues his way through 8th position. Can he make it work? And comes across the line up into the top 3 for Noah Hendricks, beating out Cameron de Bastos. Tommaso rounding out the final corner, and this will be his last lap. Can he make it work for him as he gets across from 23rd position? He will still hold that 23rd spot, 10th in class. So a couple of drivers unable to improve as the session timer starts to tick over, and drivers get ready for their race. It's going to be Werner Skuman and Steven Wessels thinking about what they need to do at the sharp end of the field to keep away from the concertina that's going to happen into turn 1. And honestly, I have to agree with you guys out in the virtual grandstands. A massive welcome to everyone. A big speed out there, and absolutely mental pace from our drivers. But with that being said, we look towards our grid as we start to get ready for round 2 of the RaceFace.Pro GT3 Championship. And this is the second round of the championship, being our endurance round, which means an 80-minute race with a mandatory tire change that the drivers will have to go and deal with. It is cold, it is murky, and it looks like we possibly may have rain coming back to join us, and that's going to really go and close the field up. Everyone having to think, what is the big plan here? How can they move forward? Looking at our pro results, it's going to be Justin Elof, Malcolm Pringle, Noah Hendricks, Willem Botha, Warwick Wilson, Jean Jans van Rensburg, Steven Wessels, Werner Skuman, Doug Herber, and Cameron de Bastos that hold on to the top 10 in points for our pro drivers. As we still waiting for the grid to come up, and we can then eventually get people out onto the circuit, getting themselves sorted out. And the timer just ticking over, allowing drivers to get themselves sorted before we head to the circuit. Another run through on the points. Let's take a look at what our Pro-Am standings are heading into this round. And it's going to be Werner Skuman and Willem Botha who are in the Pro for our points before. Sorry, that is our qualifying. It's going to be Tommaso, James Pepper, Steve Pepper, Benjamin England, Jan Ingebrigtsen, Katleko Makali, Wesley Lewin, Matthew Milan, Tianas Burton, Stephen Cakebread rounding out the pack. Looking at our grid, it is going to be Werner Skuman, Steven Wessels, Noah Hendricks, Cameron de Bastos, Willem Botha, along with Malcolm Pringle, Liam Swinburne, Justin Elof, Jean Jans van Rensburg, Warwick Wilson, and Byron Kutsia holds on to 11th position, with James Pepper, who will be starting out first of the Pro-Ams, and we'll be hoping to be front of the pack. Luke Danes, Tianas Botha, Devin Ellis, Xander Carstens, along with Sean Syme, Chris DeSantos, Andre De Rees, Jan Engelbrecht, Robbie Teens, Mario Morano, Tommaso Bigasso, Ben England, along with Jane Earls, Sean Symes, Katleko Makali, Michael Hudson, Wesley Lewin, Arno Kraus, Mark Pulser, Henny Porchita, Stephen Cakebread, Willem Pinar in 34th. 35th goes to Jacques Krill and Sean Berg. As we round out our final row of the grid, it's going to be Ryan Porchita and Matteo Milani rounding out our pack. Drivers now on the line, waiting for our safety car to pull off. All eyes to the front here as Werner Skuman and Steven Wessels will go door to door with each other into turn 1. And that's going to make life a little bit more exciting. It's 18 minutes worth of racing here, folks. It is 18 minutes to give it your absolute all. The question is, can they keep the momentum? Can they go and fight it out for position? And who is going to stand at the top come the end of this race? Who is going to be the one to be at the top? Now, drivers are at the ready, waiting behind the safety car. It's going to be a short formation lap for 38 cars to take their spot off the line. This is a monster of a field for the drivers competing. This is one to race for, and this is going to be a race of a lifetime, with Werner Skuman and Steven Wessels both having a chance at getting the jump off the line. The question is, who is going to be able to accelerate quicker? Who's going to be at the top? Who's going to carry the momentum all the way through till the very end? Now, with that being said, with James Pepper, Byron Kutzer, Tianas Buerta, Lucan Haynes hoping to keep up with the pros and also to defend against their own class. It's going to be a monster affair. Our safety car pulls off and it all goes to the lights for Werner Skuman and Stephen Vessels as they round the final corner. Side by side they go, waiting for the green light, and it looks like Werner's not hanging around, stands on the gas as quick as he can, and Stephen Vessels now having to fight out against Noah Hendricks. As we hear green flag. Drivers giving it their absolute all down to turn 1. Cameron Bastos holds in for 4th position. Noah Hendricks bottled in for the apex. Unfortunately, couldn't get the drive on Stephen Vessels, stuck to the outside now as he battles his way through. It's going to be a close run for Cameron Bastos, but Willem Buerta, Liam Swinburne, and Malcolm Pringle all over the back of one another. And take a look, Justin Eloff closes up between them, trying to figure out where he can slot that Lamborghini in as Liam loses out a little bit of time. And now Willem Buerta closes up on him, but has got his mirrors full, both left and right, and taken nearly 3 wide with Warwick Wilson taking that McLaren, launching it to see if he can get past Malcolm Pringle. Couldn't get it done, and now has to sit behind. First time in anger, down towards the hairpin. Drivers looking A-OK at the moment, and everyone just trying to keep it all together on the way through. So no big offs since the start of this race thus far. Oh, and as I said it, there is the big off. That's Tianas Buerta tangling up, and that looks like it's going to be one of our Porsches of Lucan Haynes that has got tangled up with him. Unfortunately, the two of them through the hairpin didn't quite make friends, and that spat them both off circuit. Let's see if we can go back and take a look what happened there. So quick look as it's around the outside, rear to front, and that's all she wrote. Unfortunately, Lucan, who's trying to slow the car down, impacts back onto Tianas Buerta, who's trying to rejoin the circuit, but just that understeer creeping out on the Porsche, unfortunately knocked him down the order. We'll now have to figure out what is going to be the game plan here. Noah Hendricks up into 4th place, is now seen the back of Cameron de Bastos. Werner Skuman, Stephen Vessels continuing on their charge. Liam Swinburne carrying a huge train behind him at the moment, trying to figure out what is going to be the big plan here and where can they make up time. It's a big look for Justin Eloff down the inside of Buerta. He's able to get it done. Buerta looked for the cutback, wasn't close enough to get it done, and instantly having Malcolm Pringle putting the nose of the BMW forward, trying to see where he can make up that little bit of distance. Warwick Wilson right in the mix as well as Malcolm Pringle gets up on the inside, doesn't get it slowed down too quickly on the apex, and that was a bit of a close call for Malcolm as Willem Buerta did throw a hammer and tongs at him. Warwick Wilson now deals with Sean Jans van Rensburg, and it's going to be Jans van Rensburg stuck on the outside. Warwick pushing him right into the corner. Door to door they go yet again. No one giving an inch, and that's allowed Byron Kutzer to get right into the back of him. And just behind them is the cool camels of James Pepper, who's leading out the Pro-Am division, wanting to move forward, not wanting to get caught out because Devin Ellis is starting to close up the distance, and Devin Ellis actually getting forced out a little wide from the likes of Chris DeSantos and Xander Carstens, and now have to try and pull his way through as immediately Andre Derice, the rookie, written on the car, getting his way back up towards the sharp end of the field. Tommaso now holds on the charge, looks around the outside with his Porsche, was late to the party, but now slowly but surely clawing his way back into this race, and now getting ahead of Devin Ellis, and can look towards Andre Derice and Krista Santos to see if he can get past them to go on for the charge. Liam Swinburne trying to hold back Justin Eloff, the Pandacity driver, not wanting to lose out the drive. And for Liam Swinburne, it's all about carrying a lot of momentum through, seeing where it's going to help him out. Noah Hendricks right on the back of Cameron de Bastos. They fight on for 3rd position overall and in class. You can see Noah looked for the inside line, backed out of it, chose that he's not going to pull the pin yet. Byron Kutzer, however, decides he's going to go for it. Warwick Wilson, unfortunately, not able to get it done. And that is, unfortunately, a Justin Eloff, who we saw right at the top, now turned round and pointing wrong way up the circuit. Justin Eloff with a bit of a problem. Warwick carries the momentum through just ahead of Byron and managing just to close off the nose of Byron. Let's quickly take a look at what happened to Justin on that way through. So Liam Swinburne ahead of him. He's looking to try and get a little bit closer. Late on the brakes, turns in. Oh, little touch on the rear of Liam's car. Unfortunately, that spun him round to have the majority of the field overtake him, losing 10 positions from where he started and now having to fight his way back through the field. A little battle happening through the back. There's Luke Naines finding out with Jacques Krill. The two racing snails going at one another, not backing out of the fight and really going and having a go. Sean Berg just ahead of him. There's no team orders there. They are absolutely nose to tail to see who can stay in for the fight. Warwick Wilson now has got Byron on the back of him. James Pepper has closed up the distance as well. Justin Eloff down in 18th position, trying to make his way through. Got Jan Engelbrecht looking for the inside line, not able to get it done as yet. Jan Engelbrecht was able to keep the car in check. The Vodafone colours hoping to stay all together. Does see there's a bit of contact further up the road and a very slow going Mercedes. Unfortunately, it looks like Andre de Ries landing up with a problem. So was Devin Ellis. And now Justin Eloff getting ahead of Jan Engelbrecht. He was not fighting for class position there. So a little bit of thinking about the long-term strategy. Joshua Syme now onto the back of Jan Engelbrecht and will be considering and weighing up the options on the overtake. Can he get it done to make it an easy pass, or is this going to be a long run through? As Joshua eyes out the inside line, heading into turn one. It's going to be late on the brakes, late to try and get it all together. And what a phenomenal move done into turn one. And with that being said, let's take a look at what happened to Andre, because it all went wrong again. And I suspect he's got quite a bit of damage to the car on the suspension. And yes, it is. Take a look at that steering. Just not going and working out for him. Stopped, towed it back to pits to get himself sorted out. And that pretty much put to bed any run for him in the top 10 at the moment. But will be doing everything he can to try and get that car fixed. They do have a fast repair underneath their belt to try and help their way through. Lots and lots of gravel starting to build up in the hairpin, and drivers starting to feel that as they consider their options, trying to figure out where can they move forward and what can they do, as we see Malcolm Pringle and Willem Guerta now trading blows with one another. Back up to the sharp end of the field, Werner Skuman losing out a lot of drive. Suddenly has the BMW of Steven Vessels on the back of him, looking to see if he can get a pass done. Late on the anchors, unfortunately couldn't quite get it done as yet. Still having to see if he can get the run out of the NGK chicane into the final corner. Steven Vessels has got the advantage with the inside line. Late on the brakes, swings the car in, and Werner Skuman trying to keep it together on the outside, trying to gather as much drive as possible. However, it is going to be a run down towards turn one. It's a drag race all the way through. Mercedes just having enough top end to keep it alive, but it's Steven Vessels under braking, swings back at him and goes and closes off that gap. Werner Skuman not giving Steven any room to breathe here as they fight it out. Windscreen wipers going on Werner Skuman's car, going and thinking about maybe the weather's starting to change. Justin Eloff with the fastest lap time of the race with a 1:57 going and really booting his way through. And a problem for Cameron de Bastos. Cameron de Bastos getting the McLaren turned around, and from third position on the brakes, turns it in, and the rear may have just, kicked out, and that is all she wrote for him. Waiting for now the field to come through, and reverses it back to get himself going from top end. Unfortunately, the McLaren just not having that rear end stability that he needed at the time, and unfortunately that's cost him. Krista Santos and Tommaso now pushing onto one another, both running second and third in class, and will be looking at the long term here. What can they do? Tommaso hunts down that inside line of Krista Santos, couldn't quite get it done, and will wait it out yet again. To jump on the roll bar of the Porsche 992.2, and will be seeing what he can get done. TV Racing, Tommaso, basically Gio now trying to see what he can get done and dusted to Chris DeSantos further up the road. They see Justin Eloff starting to run away from them, but it also means they're starting to draw in James Pepper ever so slightly. Tommaso just not able to close up that gap, trying everything he can. Looked around to the outside, switched back to the inside, trying to bait a move into NGK chicane. Fortunately, couldn't quite get it done, and there is one of our Porsches off. That's Byron, who's managed to lose it. Byron off circuit. Let's quickly take a look what happened to Byron, as that was through the chicane. He had Warwick Wilson on his tail. James Pepper also in behind him. Did the Porsche just let loose? Yes, it did, and spun round. Thankfully, no damage to the car, but waits for the field to come through before he's able to join, throwing him way down the order. As we rejoin on Tommaso's on board, takes the inside line, beautifully hooks it in, and managing just to get the drive around the outside, and now up into second place. Liam Swinburne going and having a bit of a problem. As we take a look to the Mercedes that was running up at the top, late on the brakes, and looks like the rear end also just battling to get the grip, clip the curb, and that's all she wrote. Round and round she goes, and losing out to the drivers. Has to try and get a 600-point turn with that Mercedes to get him pointing in the right direction. He's down to 8th position overall, 7th in class. Andre de Vries, unfortunately, also running into a problem, as we're seeing more and more mistakes coming out from the drivers. The conditions not playing favorably here, and everyone who's pushing that little bit harder having the same problem. Lively rear ends, throwing them around and making life a little bit more difficult for each and every driver. Robbie Teen's a little bit further back. He is trying to move his way forward, as you see Jaden Earl has got a black flag to his name, and unfortunately will be going and serving a drive-through penalty. That is for 16 incident points picked up during the course of the race. For every time you drop a wheel off circuit, that's 1. You get it sideways, that's 2. And contact means 4 X's. And you got 16 to play with to go and fight it out. Werner Skuman, fastest lap time of the race. Steven Vessels nearly a second behind him on that drive, trying to see where they can work forward. Cameron de Bastos up against Willem Buerta in the Mustang, and now has Justin Eloff right into the gearbox, seeing where he can move forward. Justin Eloff making up some time after his earlier spin. Cameron de Bastos takes a dive on the inside, late on the brakes on Willem Buerta. Can he get it done? Over the curbing they go. Buerta going to run out wide. Cameron tried to put the squeeze on. Justin Eloff picking up a position as well. So Buerta losing out 2 positions, and now seeing these two scrap it out. Eloff comes through, understeers into the side of Cameron. Buerta puts his nose forward, has to back out, and that unfortunately was Buerta's run taken out of the corner for Cameron and Justin. They would pick up that 4X, and not quite how they wanted it during the course of this race, and they will now have to think about driving a little bit safer. As we take a look to the Ford Mustang of Willem Buerta, trying to close up the distance, trying to see where he can move up and get a little bit later on the brakes. Tommaso and Chris Santos run currently in 12th and 13th overall, but 2nd and 3rd in class behind these fighting duos. Tommaso, you can just see in shot, and that Porsche making up a lot of ground at the moment. Tiernas Buerta to Xander Costins also making up a little bit of time as well. So some phenomenal racing, but still lots and lots to go about. And everyone having to think about what is the big plan here. How far are they willing to go and push these cars? What are they needing to do to stay at the sharp end of the field? And where is it going to be come the end of the race? Matteo Milani, remember, needing to fight it out, qualifying out in wet weather tyres, and trying to see where it's all going to work out for him. He's going to try split down the middle on 28 of Sean Symes, who gets a little bit hairy, and immediately having the 333 of Sean Symes in the 333 getting the run. And that was Lucan Haynes that he tried having a go at. So Lucan, unfortunately, getting a little bit of loss of run. Henny Porchita also caught out as they fight it through, and it's going to be late on the brakes yet again. Henny trying the best he can with that Racing Snails, unfortunately, not able to carry the pace through. Waits it out as they do see pit stops starting to happen. I do think that was Jaden that possibly came into the pits. Yes, it is, to serve his drive-through, get himself sorted out, and back onto circuit. Leading out our pros, though, Werner Skuman and Steven Vessel starting to open up to the rest of the field and looking to stay as far forward as possible, not wanting to be swallowed up by the rest of the drivers, and will be thinking of what they need to do to stay in the mix. Willem Buerta and Cameron de Bastos continue on their fight. Further up the road, though, Liam Swinburne is having a bit of a run up against Warwick Wilson. So Warwick getting a little bit off circuit there. James Pepper just ahead of the two of them, and it's going to be Liam around the outside, gets the drive and forces Warwick further back behind him, and Justin Eloff closes up at a rate of knots. Behind them, Cameron de Bastos and Willem Buerta are closing up onto the fighting duo as well, and they will be trying to close up that distance at a rate of knots. Now, we talked about a bit of a problem coming in, and this is Lucan having a bit of a problem, and he was close to his own teammate. Just the rear stepping out underneath him and managing to stop the car before it rolls back into the grid, and was able to protect from any damage all the way through. So having a grand time out there, now trying to think about the strategies, the plans, what needs to be done to move forward, as now it is just into the long game. 16 minutes completed of this 80-minute race as we jump back to Lucan Haynes overtaking the likes of the Sharks Krill, and just ahead of them, Ben England having a little bit of a flash moment. Now able to carry on the Snails Pace Racing team, dealing with the Racing Snails, as it is just escargot everywhere, folks, with all the Snails team. And it's wonderful to see from different countries, UK, South Africa, Brazil, Italy, and Ireland coming in and racing with us. It is wonderful to have so many different drivers from different backgrounds. Seto Corsa Competizione, iRacing as the main sim, or even from the world of ACC. Everyone just trying to get the one up on one another and showing what they can do in this 38 car field, and everyone still trying to give it their absolute all out on track. See, Devin Allies, unfortunately, is our first retirement of the race and is completely out of it. So Devin Allies will be at the bottom end of the field. Rian Pochita trying to make his way through. Andre de Ries, Mark Palser, all keeping in tow. So 37 cars remain out on the circuit, and plenty of time to gain positions. At the moment, our hardest charger is the likes of Matteo Nalini, who is up 15 positions from where he started, and now keeps pushing that a little bit more. So trying to gain as much time as possible to see if it's going to work out for him. But 15 positions up is no sneezing effort. That is very, very well done for our drivers. However, biggest loss that are still rolling, I'm not going to count those that are not driving, and that is going to be Andre de Ries, down 17 positions from where he started, and we'll have to try and figure out where he can make up the time. 23rd in class, 36th overall. Still plenty of room to try and make it up under the pit stops. Remember, they got a mandatory tyre change, and that is going to change how the race goes. Liam Swinburne and Justin Eloff close to the back of one another. Warwick Wilson onto the back of James Pepper, who fights for class position. Warwick now having to defend against the likes of Cameron de Bastos and Willem Buerta on the way through. All three drivers want to clear James Pepper as quick as possible. For James, it's a matter of pride at the moment to keep the fight up, but the question is, can he allow these three past him and then sacrifice that 3-second gap that the likes of Tommaso has got on the back? Is it going to be worth that run? You're going to have to think about the strategy going forward. Close run through the Schumacher's S's, but no one able to improve. Justin Eloff, however, getting a phenomenal drive out of the corner. Now all over the back looks to the outside. Bit of a squeeze to Liam Swinburne, but both were able to make it through the corner, and it is going to be Elof getting just there. You can hear him powering out and forcing Liam to really think of strategy-wise what can be done. Warwick Wilson trying to go around the outside of James Pepper, who ran through the puddle. That's going to quickly cool down the tires. Buerta comes through, and it's late on the brakes. Cameron de Bastos unfortunately fouled up there, and now James Pepper trying to keep out of the way of Buerta, and Cameron de Bastos trying to make it 3 wide. Not quite going to work out. Pepper doing everything he can, gets right out of the way of the pros. That has brought down the pace, and now Byron Kutzer is on the back of him. But take a look at the Porsches in tow. The silhouette is going to be right in the mirrors of James Pepper. He went and lost out so much time, and that has brought Tommaso right to the front and looking to charge for that first place. James Pepper took the cautious approach to allow the pros through, and unfortunately, in doing that, the pros weren't getting around him far too quickly, and that fouled up to allow the likes of Tommaso to close up the field. So no one getting an advantage out there. Everyone going to be gnawing their teeth at the moment. Byron all over the back of James. A quick flash of the light saying, listen, I'm a pro driver. Can you give me a little bit of room here? There is no reason to jump out the way. Drivers can hold their racing line. They can be predictable, and that's what they need to do. It's not a blue flag situation. You're racing for class and overall position. And at the moment, James Pepper seeing Tommaso behind him, knowing that he's got to keep his foot firmly to the floor here, not to get fouled up. Otherwise, he will be losing out that top spot. Xander Clausen's catching up to Chris DeSantos. Tiernas Buerta hangs on to the back of him. Tiernas Buerta from the Pandacity team keeps an eye on Xander, taking the lunge down the inside, follows through as well, as unfortunately DeSantos getting caught out there, now trying to guard the line as Tiernas Buerta runs out wide. It's a drag race through. Tiernas Buerta is going to have the advantage heading into the NGK chicanes, and Wesley Lewin lurks in behind. DeSantos moves to the right-hand side. He sends it down the inside with the BMW. It's door-to-door. It's jump over the curb for Tiernas Buerta. Picks up a bit of a problem there. Quick flash of the lights coming in for the likes of Chris DeSantos, who tells Xander, listen, bud, you got a bit of damage to your nose. Near come through. Lights turn on as the fog brings in, and it's a flash yet again from Chris DeSantos, getting a bit frustrated there. A little bit of a bump trough coming in from Wesley Lewin, who sends it up on the inside and trying to make it work. Wesley Lewin doing everything he can, as it looks like DeSantos has lost it. DeSantos loses out, trying to get past. Unfortunately, that didn't work out in his favor. Tiernas Buerta battles against Wesley Lewin, the two of them not yielding, and Xander going and managing just to keep going at the sharp end of the field. Xander with a drive-through penalty. Next time he gets to the pits, they got 3 laps to serve it, but Xander, the cork in the bottle, that has now gone and caused a little bit of a concertina, and we do know a couple of drivers that are going to be thinking about the strategy. Ben England and Jaden Newell fighting it out. Jaden, we saw, went into pit lane, served his drive-through, now trying to make his way back up through the field with Benjamin England and Willem Pienaar following suit. Willem, part of the teams, Bolt and Nut Racing. Oh, sees Jaden Newell. Both were able to go and avoid him only just on that way through. Ben England was so close to nearly having a world of trouble out there, and now we'll need to think, what can he do to stay at the sharp end and stay in for the fight. Willem Buerta and Cameron de Bastos hang on at the moment, trying to move their way forward. Liam Swinburne ahead of them is checked out from the fight, and we'll be thinking about the strategies going forward as we venture on towards our 30-minute mark. We do expect the drivers to come in. Roughly 40 minutes is going to be halfway, and drivers will be looking at that with consideration. Are they going to do the box? Are they going to get themselves sorted out? Remember, a pit stop is going to take well over 30 seconds with a tire change. That is mandatory during this race, and will be going and throwing a wrench in anyone's plans to move forward. So you've got to take consideration of the distance between yourself and the other drivers, how much fuel you're burning off, because that is another factor. With drivers considering the pit stop, can they go and put a little less fuel to run that little bit longer in the race, or are they taking a full tank now just to change tires during the race? That is the different strategies that get called up and drivers have to consider about in their options. Where is the big moves going to come in, and where are they going to stand? Malcolm Pringle and Noah Hendricks keeping each other busy. The Venture Motorsport team against the likes of the asymmetric racing team. Noah Hendricks, yes, am I unfortunately retired out of sim racing full time, and will be keeping an eye on his teammate Noah Hendricks, who currently holds on to that third place spot as they fight it out. You can see Malcolm having great straight line speed. He's able to go a little bit later on the brakes. Noah trying to come back at him, swings around the outside. Lukanens, unfortunately, with a drive-through penalty, he's going to need to serve, going and getting over the threshold of incident points at 16, and then every 7 after that. So drivers have been trying their luck. Unfortunately, cutting the chicanes a little bit too much, cutting the corners a little too much will pick up an incident point, and unfortunately will turn your day upside down, because you're going to have to go through the pit lane not once but twice, as Justin Elof sets a fast lap time on the race with a 156.6. Noah Hendricks stuck on the outside. Pringle walks his way through, trying to see where they can move forward. It's going to be late on the brakes yet again, with Pringle just keeping ahead of Noah. He's able to eke out that little bit of distance and able to get the drive out through the right-hander. Goes across the nose of Noah Hendricks for a solid defense. Both of them sitting 9 seconds adrift of Steven Vessels, who's 1 second off the back of Werner Skuman. No one yielding, everyone moving, and now it's getting into a bit of a wild one. Cameron de Bastos and Tommaso getting tangled up. So here is an interesting situation. Did Cameron's McLaren snap underneath him again over the curb? Yes, it did. Grota was able to move around, and it looks like Tommaso, not further down the line, had a similar problem. Here is Tommaso, who took over the lead of the Pro-Ams, kept it wide to see that Cameron's there, and unfortunately that is him all the way out as well. And you can see flat on the throttle, trying to get the car going immediately. Now losing out to James Pepper, who retakes over the lead. So some great racing out there, some great times, and our leaders going and fighting out. No way backing down. Skuman and Pepper still hold on to the top of the chart. Joshua is now trying to close up the distance to the likes of Tommaso. Joshua sitting in the Pro class, Tommaso in the Pro-Am class. Each of them considering their options. Cameron de Bastos trying to claw his way back after twice the McLaren kicking out underneath him under acceleration, and that snap coming out on him. Possibly a little bit of a setup not working, and now starting to feel it more and more. Jaden Earl, unfortunately, yellow flags coming up for him. Let's try and take a look what happened. Jaden Earl for the Minolta team. And Jaden, who was all fine. Oh, just the rear gave up the ghost. Lost that mechanical grip, and that's all she wrote. A near avoidance for Andre de Ries, who did a stellar job and managing just to go and avoid in the nick of time. That would have been a very close accident, and not one you want to have during the course of the race. Katleko Makali, we haven't spoken much about them, and Chris DeSantos fighting it out. DeSantos a little bit lower than what he originally wanted to be in, and now trying to work his way back up through the order. Katleko Makali up into 6th in class, DeSantos 5th, and they continue to keep a very close eye on one another. No one backing out, with Makali waiting in the Pampers colours to stay in the mix, seeing where exactly can he close down that distance, where can he move forward in this race, what needs to be done. Once again, those pit stops are going to be absolutely crucial for those that have lost drive and fight their way back up through the field, and those that are looking to hold their positions. This is going to be a critical time as Cameron gets past Joshua. Clean, easy pass through the Schumacher S's, and it wasn't much of a fight for Joshua as he goes and keeps a very close eye on the field through the run. James Pepper fighting out with Warwick Wilson as our leaders cross the line. 9 seconds back is Malcolm Pringle and Noah Hendricks, who are fighting out for third. But James Pepper, who currently holds on first for the Pro-Ams, Warwick, who is just eking out a little bit of pace ahead, will be thinking of any ideas forward. What can he do to stay in for the fight? Where can he make up that little bit of time needed to move forward? And if so, can he fight out for the top 10 overall? It would be a big score for the Pro-Am driver to get into the top 10, but Warwick's not going to make it easy for him and will do everything he can, elbows out racing, to hold on to that 10th place spot and hope to close up to the likes of Byron, who's just a fraction ahead at the moment. 2.1 seconds just in view. You can reach out and touch him, but that Porsche just having the legs in and out through the corners, and everyone having a stellar time out there. Sean Symes, Slowpoke Racing, going and chasing down Lucan Haynes, the only Chevrolet in the field, continues to have a brilliant run out on track. Behind Lucan at the moment, who wanders off circuit, and a quick easy round the outside pass on the Porsche gets it done and dusted. The Chevrolet looking a little bit used and battered on the nose, but will be continuing on to keep the momentum, to see how that is going to play out in his favor. But it's going to be a huge bit of momentum needed to stay at the sharp end. Malcolm Pringle and Noah Hendricks still fight out for third. 31 minutes have gone past, and still a little bit of time left in the race to get themselves up before they need to start considering those pit stops and where they're going to come out, as we do see the first of the pit stops crawling in from a couple of the drivers getting themselves sorted, and will be thinking about that. It's Mark Pacer who went into the pits. Hasn't had the best of runs, been battling with the car, but getting his pit stop done, dusted, going to put some new tires on the car, and then able to get out back onto the circuit. Our leaders starting to catch up through the field. Sees Andre de Ries, who currently holds on to 36th position overall. Our leaders will now seriously think, okay, we got a game plan here. We're catching up to the back markers. What are we going to do? Are we going to stay out and continue pushing, or are we going to think about pit stops in this fact? It's going to be a react situation. It's going to be who's going in and who's going to stay out to try and get the overlap at this point. Or are you going to mimic the driver ahead of you to cut off any chance of an undercut coming in underneath, or an overcut as well? Van Rensburg and Justin Elof. Oh, Justin going and losing the rear a little bit. Can't quite keep it all together. Sword and braking was just a really big moment. We get word that Wesley Lewin towed back to pit, so Wesley Lewin landing up in a bit of a problem and had to get towed back to pit lane. It's a non-ideal situation for Wesley Lewin. We'll try and take a look at what on earth happened to him. That got him to jump back to pit. So the rain starting to come down and back into the pit. So Wesley had a problem beforehand that went and threw him down the order, but we saw a little bit of a drizzle starting to form by the start-finish line, and our drivers might be seeing that on their visors and once on the windscreens and thinking, okay, well, rain tires it is, folks. This is probably what they've been waiting for, and we could see little splutters from our cameras. But let's go and take a look at our leader, Werner Skuman, who has got Steven Vessels all over the back of him. Steven trying everything he can at the moment to close down the distance. There is the rain coming down. It's not hard enough at the moment to be too much of a concern, but it will start to build up and become a little bit more frustrating. It'll become a little bit harder to drive these cars. So it's going to be up on traction control. Start going up on what you need to do to stay in the front. Traction control, ABS, and look to put wet weather tires on when it starts progressing. Because once the rain comes down, it's only going to get harder and harder before it lets up. And the drivers will start to feel the grip underneath them fading away every bit. And it still will be thinking of how they are going to push these tires a little bit further into the race. Our Pro-Am drivers don't waste time. And you can see Steven Vessels over the curbs, fully committed through the Schumacher S's, get side by side with Werner Skuman, who's able to just eke it out. But Steven was committed to the line, was committed to the cause, couldn't quite get it done, but wasn't going to back out from the fight. Werner Skuman, who was tight up against the left-hand side of the first Schumacher S, was able to just hold station, and now will be trying to eke out that gap a little bit more. For anyone out in the world of sim racing that wants to know, a key factor that you can look at for the drivers is the pooling on the corners, as we do get harder rate on one side of the circuit versus the other. But also something to keep an eye out for is when the rooster tails start to kick up. The moment those rooster tails come into play for our drivers, it is going to be a little bit more crazy out there. Drivers will be going and battling with grip, and we can already see with the cameras that rain starting to fall more and more out on the track, and drivers battling to get some grip underneath them. A couple of drivers pulling into the pits, opting, hang on, this is wet weather tires, this is time to get in, sort the car out, get out. For a lot of our front runners though, who continue to push on slicks, they're not backing out of this, they're not giving up. They want to continue on the drive with slick tires during the course of this race. And that is going to be a very bold call that can bite them a little bit later in the race, or it can work them out, because the only one in our top 18 that are on wets is Cameron De Bastos. Xander will be trying to get his car sorted out, so is Tiernas Buerta will be considering it. But Cameron, now with wet weather tires, aiming to stay at the sharp end of the field, decided to get those new tires on, get the mandatory pit stop out of the way, and also get himself into a little bit of a safer approach. However, losing that little bit of time is going to cost him, as our leaders catch up to the Ford Mustang. That's Arno Fraus who lets him go on by, not arguing too much there. And you can see a little bit of damage that may have been picked up on Werner Skuman's front left tyre. And Werner pulls into the pits. Steven Vessels will take over the lead of the race, going that extra lap, opting that there's still grip out on the circuit. He can still feel it, and he's still going to work with it. Malcolm Pringle is going to do exactly that with Noah Hendricks as well, as they caught up behind Andre de Vries and Jaden Newell at the moment. But Malcolm Pringle going and opting to go a little bit longer in this with traffic ahead is a bold move, and now all of a sudden caught boxed, and that's it. Couldn't slow the car down. Hendricks up into second. De Vries and Jaden Newell went out wide. Noah Hendricks trying to go around the outside of them, sees De Vries, loses it through the corner, was able to keep it all together. Jaden Newell trying to brake late, and nearly into the back of Noah Hendricks. Couldn't quite slow the car down, and Noah Hendricks brought a little bit closer, but Malcolm Pringle got ultimately the worst one of that. Boxed in, nowhere to go, late on the anchors, and not able to move forward. Jaden defends the line and trying to keep to the racing line as much as possible, not wanting to put a wheel wrong, and that's allowed Noah Hendricks to get caught up by Malcolm Pringle. The fighting for second in class and overall suddenly rejoining back against one another behind Jaden Newell, and now we'll be thinking, okay, what's the game plan here? Where are we going to go? We're going to work with each other, work against each other, both utilizing the curb as much as possible and starting to feel the pressure. Malcolm down the inside, brakes late, couldn't quite get it slowed down enough. And likes of Noah Hendricks outbraking himself and losing out that drive. It is tit for tat at the moment. None of the drivers able to move forward. None of the drivers able to get that drive on one another. Everyone evenly matched. Jaden to the inside line, switches back to the outside. It's going to be Hendricks late on the brakes, trying to throw it down the inside into the NGK chicane. He did it. Malcolm Pringle, unfortunately, wasn't able to get that one done. And now Noah Hendricks has got a little bit of room to play, as Justin Eloff now caught up for that 4th position to aim for 2nd at the moment, or 3rd place at the moment, 2nd just further up the road. But drivers haven't gone into the pits for their tyre change as yet, and everyone still trying to go a little bit longer during the course of this race, as we do see Malcolm Pringle sends it down the inside of Jaden Hill, now having to keep it all together. Jaden right onto the back will have Justin Eloff looking to clear him, or never mind, Jaden losing the rear of the car, and that's allowed Justin to keep the momentum, keep the drive, and keep focus all the way through. Michael Hutchison and Cameron DeBastos fight it out, and a little bit behind them, Jan Engelbrecht has joined into the party. For Michael and Jan, they are fighting out for class position and will have to defend against one another, but look to try and get past Cameron DeBastos, as our drivers all looking to get onto wet weather tyres, and we're seeing more and more drivers getting those wet weather tyres on to continue on forward. The bar for drivers that have done their mandatory pit stop and swapped out tyres is Werner Skuman at the moment, who is on a phenomenal run. But can he stay up at the top? Can he continue pushing on as Liam Swinburne? And we're getting reports here. Werner remaining on dries. He's not on wet. Liam, Byron, Cameron on wet. Everyone else still opting for dries at this stage of the game. Still trying to figure out where they can make the momentum and where can they keep the grip. This is a very strange call for our drivers out there. As the rain starts to build up more and more, this is only going to get trickier and trickier. Are they opting because there's a possible change of the clouds moving away at the stage of the game towards the end? So it's going to be more reasonable to stay on dry tyres and just fight your way through the cloud burst at this point, or is it going to bite them in the backside? As we see Malcolm Pringle trying to close up to Noah Hendricks. Time still 1:59s for both of them. Is low fuel kept together and still working in the favour. Not quite the 57 that we saw earlier, as Justin Eloff on the brakes getting that pass done beautifully and has done it 100%. Let's quickly take a look at it. Sorry, that is the wrong replay. There we go. Down the inside, and there's Justin Eloff getting it all hooked in. Late on the brakes, sweeps across the nose, beautifully kept together, and forces Malcolm Pringle back that a little bit longer. So, drivers continuing the late call here, trying to see where exactly they're going to move forward. How far are they willing to go? Where are they going to make up the time to get into the box, get it done and dusted, as we over the halfway mark now, and there is a number of drivers yet to get their pit stops sorted out. Still needing to think about what is the big strategies here, but 2nd, 3rd and 4th position overall at the moment are nose to tail, still keeping each other rather busy, and there is still the lingering Werner Skuman, who has done his pit stop, has got it underneath his belt, and now continuing on the race to see how it's going to work in his favor. He is the bar that Stephen Vessel's 13 seconds up the road from our fighting trio at the moment. We'll have to keep a very close eye on, because if he gains time, he's in for a world of trouble, and is leaning on go out, leave your car out just that little bit longer, and see if the overcut is going to work out in favor to Werner Skuman, who's up into the top 10 already after his pit stop. Noah Hendricks trying to dive around the inside of the Racing Snails, and now, the Snails pace, and now it's side by side with Eloff and Hendricks into the turn one. In these conditions, lost the late breakers. You could see the rooster tails coming off the back of the cars very faintly at this point. Eloff was able to get it stopped. Malcolm Pringle put his nose in to try and get the pass on Noah Hendricks. Noah coming back to see if he can stay into the fight with Eloff. These two exchanged blows in single seaters last night, and now in GT3s they're looking to do it all over again, rekindling a huge fight with one another and looking to stay forward. Arno Kraus out on circuits with Jacques Krill going and fighting his way through. I do want to point out, Arno Kraus is a driver in LMU and in iRacing. I'm not sure if he's still racing ACC. If so, he would be racing every Tuesday. He would be racing Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays across 3 different sims. And that would be a feat and a half for a driver to do, considering how different each of the sims are to one another in terms of braking, acceleration, how the GT3 cars handle, well, even LMU to iRacing is going and comparing cricket to rugby. Pringle, once again, looking to get the pass on Noah Hendricks, just not able to send it down on the inside to get that pass done and dusted, as Steven Vessels leads out the pro field. Pro-Am led out by Pepper. Tommaso holds on to second place with Katleko Makali up into the running top 5 in class with Tinas Buerta holding on to third place at the moment. Stephen Cakebread trying his luck to move through the order as well, not wanting to be caught out. And he has got Liam Swinburne just around him. Liam on wet weather tyres, trying to get those tyres up to temp and also keep them cool enough to compete with the rest of the drivers. However, it's not going to be an easy run for them. They will have to think about the strategies coming into play here. Light drizzle on parts of the circuit, and it's a little bit heavier on others, but we do have some dry patches starting to form on our weather radar, and this is now turning into a little bit of a situation for the drivers for what they need to consider as a good idea to get their stops done, dusted, and moving forward. Where are they going to stand during the course of this, as it's a long race, and if the rain eases up, everyone on wet weather tyres will start to have a bit of a problem. Those on dries will be able to eke out ahead, but if it intensifies, well, then it's going to hurt as well. Liam Swinburne starting to feel that little bit of pain from his tyres, and it does look like Stephen Cakebread. Oh! Liam losing the car and catches the nose of Cakebread. That was a big knock to both cars, and the sharp end and the front end of both vehicles taking the impact. Liam loses the rear and nowhere to go, and we do see Byron with a bit of a problem. Byron going and getting a meatball flag, and there is the car of Byron Kutzer, who landed up with a big impact early on. I'm just trying to take a look at where exactly did it go wrong, because Byron was ahead of Robbie Teen. So let's go back a little bit further here. There is Robbie Teens, there's Byron trying to go around the outside, and did the car slip at all during this time that landed up with that severe amount of damage to the front end of his vehicle? Oh no, he caught the front of Liam Swinburne on the exit, and that went and hooked the vehicle. So not only did Liam lose the car, catch the nose of Stephen Cakebread, but it was also Byron who came around the corner suddenly to see him there and slam, bam, thank you, ma'am. That was all she wrote. Elof, Noah Hendricks, Malcolm Pringle hold on to the top 3. Justin Elof will be trying to stretch out that gap. Stephen Vessels in and out the pits, loses out to likes of Willem Buerta, and there is Vessels on the back of Matteo. Sorry, that's Mario. No, it's not Mario, that is Matteo that he's on the back of at the moment, and will have to try and clear past. He does dive on the inside. You see Warwick Wilson now also trying to make up that little bit of time, see where it can come into play. Warwick down the inside of Stephen Vessels, a bold move, realizing he's got a bit of pace here, he's not going to hang around. And now Stephen Vessels on wet weather tyres, trying to get those up to the appropriate temp to stay in for the fight, to go that little bit longer. Tommaso, who leads out the Pro-Am field, sees that James Pepper has gone into the pits and taken wet tyres. Chris DeSantos has opted to stay on dries at the moment, and it's a bit of a mixed match calls here. Who has got the momentum? Who's got the right move to stay in for the front? Dries or wets? Everyone trying their luck on various tyres at the moment. Werner Skuman is a good call for that. First of our top 5 to dive into the pits and managing to get himself on dries. We have got further reports, though, that Katleko Makali landing up with a bit of a problem, and so did Xander Carsons. Both of them being towed as Elof loses control of the vehicle. Hendricks comes by, Pringle comes by, Elof gets going, and that is a big impact, and he doesn't opt to go in the pits. He chooses to stay out and chase down Noah Hendricks and Pringle, who are going that extra mile. A risky and bold move to try and see if he can stay in for the fight for the podium. Willem Buerta continuing his time out. Warwick Wilson continues his time out on the circuit. He is yet to go and sort himself out in the pit lane. But Stephen Vessels further behind is ones that are leading out from drivers who have gone through the pits, got themselves sorted, and now continuing on the race till the very, very bitter end. No one going and having a good strategy idea here, because everything is so up in the air with tires, so up in the air with what they can do. Tommaso on the back of Werner Skuman as they try to clear past one of our back markers. Tommaso hoping to stay on the rear of Werner Skuman. Will be moving a little bit further up in the order. Tommaso yet to do his pit stop. Werner Skuman has done his pit stop. Remember, Chris Santos, well, he's gone into the pits, and that allows James Pepper to retake second place at the moment. Byron getting overtaken by Werner. Opts to go on the inside line, forces Tommaso around the outside as Werner Skuman gets a good momentum, and there's a little bit of contact. Tommaso sliding, trying to bring it to a halt, reverses the car, trying to get himself sorted out, and now has the field come through. Oh, try to rejoin, and a bit of contact into Sean Berg. Up against the side of Sean Berg's car. Not going to be enjoying that one, and unfortunately that is going to play into effect, and drivers getting caught out. Andre de Ries with a disqualification in this race, and is one of our only cars that have been disqualified. Ryan Polkita with a drive-through penalty that he needs to serve. But other than that, there is no crazy flags going on for our drivers. Justin Elof now into the pits, slowed the car down and getting his way through as the 676 being overtaken. We'll see our front pack fighting out. This is Malcolm Pringle and Noah Hendricks, who have been going at each other left, right and center at this point, trying to see who can get the better advantage here. 52 minutes of the race completed of this 1 hour 20 minute mandatory pit stop with a tire change, and we're starting to see more wet weather tires getting put on than dry tires on these cars. Everyone starting to realize, hold on, this rain is not going away at the moment, and they're starting to feel it more and more. Elof into the pits. Skuman fights it against Stephen Vessels. These two slugged it out for the top spot, and both on different strategies, with Werner Skuman on dries, Stephen Vessels on wet, both having different advantages around the circuit. Some parts are wet, some parts dry, and Werner Skuman trying his utmost best to keep that car in check, to keep on the back of Stephen Vessels. But what it would be to have gambled it like this, to opt to stay on dries around the outside. Can he go and make it work? It's going to be a big look on the inside for Stephen Vessels to keep his nose in. Couldn't quite get it done. Tries to go for the cutback with that BMW, but it is going to be Werner Skuman who's able to power on that little bit harder to stay in for the fight here. Werner Skuman now leads out those that have done the pit stop, and he's got his biggest competition behind him of Stephen Vessels, who stays in for the mix, trying to move his way forward. Liam Swinburne getting a drive-through penalty for incident points reached, and Cameron DeBastos getting turned round as we keep an eye on this fight. A little bit of a boxing coming to play. Kakelo Makali going and minding out of the way, allows the likes of Werner and Stephen Vessels to clear on by, but also bring him a little bit closer to the 16 ahead. He will be trying to close up to Wesley Lewin, who's going to see these two absolutely brawling in his rearview mirrors. Wesley Lewin keeps to the far left-hand side. He's trying to let them go without losing too much pace. It's going to be Werner Skuman to carry a lot of that drive. Gets it done and dusted. Stephen, however, waits behind, looking for his opportunity, trying to see where he can close up to make that little bit of distance, where he can stay in for the mix. Everyone has gone wild here. Tommaso still on dries, yet to pit, trying to keep ahead of Tienes Buerta, who has gone and closed up a little bit of room to James Pepper as they fight out for second and third. It is still a monumental run up and down the order. Joshua Syme on the back of Chris DeSantos, the two BMWs now having a go, both Pro and Pro-Am, so two different classes in the fight here, two different runs, but will be considering their options to keep the momentum, to stay in for the fight in the long term, and seeing that Tienes Buerta is not too far up the road, will be hoping to stay on it. There is our Chevrolet of Sean Symes at the moment, who has a great run and still continuing on the charge, trying to see where he can move forward. Liam Swinburne going out of pit lane, serving his drive through, and now trying to see it through to the end, not wanting to have his race end in a DNF at this moment. He wants to score as many points as possible, as Tommaso fighting on the back of Justin Elof. And take a look, once again, the tyre situation comes into play here. Same as Werner Skuman and Steven Wessels. It is going to be Tommaso on dries, yet to do his pit stop. So he's light and on dries, going down the inside of Justin Elof, who now is trying to make his way back through the field after his pit stop. Got the drive on the wet and is able to hold on to that 7th position just a little bit longer, just that little bit further. Everyone hoping that they can stay that little bit closer to the sharp end of the field. Now let's see if we could quickly take a look at the number of incidents that have built up for the drivers, and that will give us a bit of an idea of who's flirting with track limits. Well, Liam Swinburne, unfortunately, having a yellow flag situation. Let's quickly take a look at him and what happened down into the hairpin. Oh, just the rear stepping out underneath him, and he's able to reverse it back onto the dirt, get himself going. Just the car not working with him at the moment, and it's another driver that is just having that rear end not living with him. Mark into the pits for his drive through and trying to keep himself in check at the moment. We'll leave in pit lane and see these two charge their way through. Tommaso down on the inside of Justin Elof. Can he get that car stopped? It's squirming all over the show. He's got damage to the sharp end of his nose, and Justin Elof just lifting off that little bit early allows him through. Will now set on his charge to get past him. However, this has cost him time to Steven Wessels and Werner Skuman further up ahead. But knowing that Malcolm Pringle, Noah Hendricks, Willem Buerta and Warwick Wilson is yet to get their pit stops done and dusted, runs in the favor of Elof to go into third place. With Werner Skuman and Steven Wessels completed their pit stops, he is in for an almighty run. Each of the drivers trying their luck. Philip Pino, unfortunately, getting yellow flags, and what on earth went wrong with him? And fortunately, it doesn't look like we're going to get that. Oh, there we go. We managed to cut it as he catches the slide in and out of the Mercedes arena, and will get himself back out on circuit without too much of a problem. Jan Earl, another drive-through penalty getting chucked on top of him for incident points. Remember, you're allowed to get to 16 incident points. Once you hit 16, that's a drive-through penalty. Every 7 after that scores you a drive-through penalty. Keep going down that road and you will land up with a bit of a problem. With the only disqualification is Andre de Ries, who would have gone and either missed out the black flags, where you got to pit within 3 laps, or he's gone and sped in pits way too quickly. Noah Hendricks and Willem Buerta into the pits, releasing Malcolm Pringle to move forward. Warwick Wilson will continue on his drive. Werner Skuman will move up into that top 4 as Noah Hendricks just comes out ahead of him Noah Hendricks, with a big undercut moment here, just comes out with Werner Skuman up the road from him. An unexpected move. Oh, the Ferrari snaps and bites underneath him, trying to figure out what he can do. He's on wet weather tires to try and bring it up to temperature. Werner on dries is still pushing as hard as he can, but Noah Hendricks has slotted himself beautifully between Werner Skuman and Steven Vessels. This has worked wonderfully in his favor, as we see Willem Buerta trying to make his way around the double seven of Mark, and now trying to keep Tommaso at bay. Buerta, who has got in for his pit stop. Tommaso yet to do his pit stop as they're trying to clear through the very, very busy field. It is a monster out there to contend with 36 cars still running, and everyone still on the cards here for podium positions in their classes. It is all about keeping it together. Tommaso hoping to get a little bit more run away from James Pepper, who's down in 10th overall and is trying to close the distance to Tommaso as quick as possible. Remember, James Pepper done his pit stop, hopes to stay on the back. Tommaso, however, has gone and driven hard, even against Justin Eloff, and will be thinking, okay, what's the game plan here? How can I move forward? As Malcolm Pringle looking possibly to come down into pit lane. At some point to this, he has to get it done, because we're entering close to the last 19 minutes of this race. And once again, we get another report. Liam Swinburne running into a yellow flag situation. It looks like the rear end kicking out underneath him. Did so on corner exit. Our replays just catching the back end of that. And once again, iRacing, beautiful to have you for so long, but can we move it off the darn CPU and put it onto the GPU? Because at the moment, holy smokes, I can smell an AMD starting to roast itself at a rate of knots. Winter time is gonna be fantastic with iRacing in the rain. They'll warm up a house in a heartbeat. Tienes Buerta, James Pepper fighting out for position. Tienes Buerta up on the inside, getting it hooked beautifully, gets ahead of James Pepper, and once again, an interesting call here. Tienes Buerta is out on dry tires. He has not switched to wets, like what James Pepper has, and now has opened up that distance a little bit more. Is the dry tires working a bit better than planned? Are they managing to find grip where there isn't? So, I mean, this is a very, very interesting run for our drivers, because the spray's not kicking up. It's not getting too wet that you can battle, but you're on a very fine line on the racing line. You're trying to paint within the lines at this stage of the game to ensure you stay fighting towards the sharp end of the field. However, the moment you go off that line, a little too far out, a little too far in, you're going to land up getting turned around. We've seen a couple of drivers having that very same problem, and it's just building up. I mean, this is a huge moment for each of our drivers. Joshua into the pits, and we're seeing yet again another battle starting to form as Werner Skuman feeling the pressure, now needing to get past Noah Hendricks, realizing, hang on, I got to get the drive here on the Ferrari. Does look around the outside as Noah got a poor exit out of the NGK chicane. Noah's going to keep it tight, gets flat on the gas, and Cameron DeBastos with a drive-through penalty for track limits exceeded. And that is going to hammer his race at the moment, but it's Werner Skuman able to out-drag the likes of Noah Hendricks now, and will be moving up through the order. And still, both are in for a podium spot, because up front, Warwick Wilson and Malcolm Pringle are yet to get their pit stops done and dusted. Steven Vessels is 3.7 seconds off the back of Noah Hendricks and is not closing up that pace. He is really battling from the sharp end of the field, able to brawl it out. He's now losing time, hemorrhaging it badly at the moment, and having to really think about the different strategies coming into play. Cameron Bastos on the back of Mike Hudson, trying to get a little bit of momentum after serving his drive through and going down the gears. You can hear really pushing the McLaren to the limit here to see if he can outbrake Michael, who just holds his line, holds his position, and gently on the throttle carries the momentum through for Michael. He's a Pro-Am driver and will have the Pro fighting behind him, doing everything he can to stay in for the fight. Cameron sends it down the inside. Michael trying to put pressure on him, eventually opening up the steering wheel, realizing, okay, if I turn any more here, I'm going to land up in a bit of a problem. Malcolm Pringle getting past likes of Van Rensburg, likes of Jean Van Rensburg, and now going and continuing on the momentum. The two teammates will have a bit of a discussion with one another just to keep an eye on the rest of the field. Warwick Wilson continuing on to go that little bit longer. Werner Skuman and Noah Hendricks, who have both done their pit stops, are remaining in third and fourth at the moment. Steven Vessels up on the inside of Willem Buerta, who gets a drive-through penalty. Willem Buerta, a drive-through penalty, and that unfortunately is going to be a nightmare affair. Buerta, who had a bit of a run, unfortunately a drive-through penalty coming in for him there. And let's quickly take a look at the pass, because this was where it all started building up. Buerta around the inside, over the curbing they go. A little bit of a squeeze, a little bit of a slide, another slap, and that is what caused the limits to go up. That little bit of a push to the slide into a 4x contact is just enough to move Willem Buerta down the order. And Steven Vessels, a quick flash of light saying, sorry bud, wasn't quite my intention to go door to door like that. And now having the back markers trying to fight their way through. That is 16th position. Now Joshua now trying to go around the outside. Steven Vessels trying to put his head back into this race and sees Tommaso in the background. Tommaso leading out the Pro-Am, yet to do his pit stop, and is the only Pro-Am that is still out on circuit yet to do his pit stop. But take a look at this. What a drive coming in from the 96. He was able to really just straight line Steven Vessels and also Tommaso as well. They are, with him falling down the field here, this is absolutely going and eating his time to the sharp end, where he could capitalize on Willem Buerta's drive-through to move up. However, for Buerta, he's on the back of Noah Hendricks. Those wet weather tires are now starting to fade off at a rate of knots. Have they burned through the wets quicker than ever, because Buerta is still on dries? So Buerta is on dries, Noah Hendricks backs out of it. I think anyone that's on the wet weather tires has just discovered the first big problem. They overheated the tires. They absolutely cooked them through and through, and are battling to get grip, battling to get drive, and are hemorrhaging seconds on one another. Taking a look at the sectors, Hendricks to the likes of Vestio. Take a look at that. It is 1 second faster in Sector 1, Sector 2.2 of a second, Sector 3 a second, Sector 4 a second, Sector 5 a second. So the dries are most certainly playing in favor compared to the wets. Hendricks is absolutely down on all 5 sectors around the circuit on anyone that is on dries. And for Noah Hendricks, who is the first of the drivers on wet weather tires, this has most certainly not gone in their favor. And once again, this is how the laps can so easily change. And for the likes of Noah Hendricks, he loses out to Tommaso. Joshua slides in, getting around him as well. Noah Hendricks has got no grip there. He's got absolutely no drive, no grip, and is hurting. Down the gears early, gently on the throttle, understeer, trying to pull it back. And you can see the rain coming down, but just not hard enough to allow the wet weather tires to get that grip through the Schumacher S's. It's night and day. Take a look where Joshua is further up the road as he now gets in overtakes Tomasa. The two of them rolling it up, and Noah Hendricks having to lift quite a bit, has lost out so much time after looking to be in for a podium spot here. Warwick Wilson into the pits, and here comes Malcolm Pringle out of pit lane. So Malcolm Pringle has done his pit stop and now continues on the drive. Warwick Wilson moves out to Werner Skuman, and Werner up into second place. So a very, very quick pit stop coming in for Warwick Wilson to get himself done, dusted, and back out on track. Will be more than happy on his drive. And Malcolm Pringle, a bit of a quick get in, change tires, get out approach. I mean, the timing difference was about 5 seconds. Let's quickly take a look at that one, because they do have to change tires. Yes, he was up on jacks. It was just a short stop on fuel and tires, and enough to get him out in front of Werner Skuman, who is now trying to claw his way through the field. Warwick Wilson into third, so huge change up for the podium. Last time we saw Stephen Vessels out there fighting out for the sharp end of the field. This time around, Malcolm Pringle, Werner Skuman, and Warwick Wilson will be going and fighting their way through. Noah Hendricks trying to claw his way back into podium run. Willem Buerta out on circuit behind Stephen Vessels at the moment, has served his drive-through penalty, and Stephen Vessels gave just enough room. Now I wonder if Stephen Vessels has backed off enough to allow Willem Buerta to retake his position after the drive-through and saying, right, I want to do this fair and square. We're going to have a race fair and square. And Willem Buerta was able to just get ahead of Vessels. Or is Vessels starting to hemorrhage on the tyres so hard that he just cannot keep that pace? And it gave Willem Buerta enough time to dive through pit lane, get himself sorted, and come out from the drive-through ahead of Stephen Vessels, who's in 6th place. This has been a race of strategy and who has been practicing in the conditions. Willem Buerta now has Noah Hendricks in his sight. Noah, a bit of a sitting duck at this moment, trying everything he can in the Ferrari to make it just cope with him, just begging for a bit of defense here. And Willem Buerta switching around the outside, will put his foot firmly on the throttle, and it looks like he's got a multitude of drive out of the corner. Noah Hendricks dead in the water. It was just a night and day difference between the two of them. You can see Noah Hendricks now hunting for any puddle on the circuit to cool the tires down, and that's just not working with him. So Willem Buerta now sits 3 seconds off a podium position. A drive-through in towards the podium spot. Tommaso, who continues on the drive, has done his pit stop. He is up into first in class. He has got Tienes Buerta on behind him. Tienes Buerta on dries and Tommaso on tries. James Pepper, who holds on to third position on wet weather tyres, is trying to hold back Chris DeSantos and Jan Engelbrecht as they battle it out for the Pro-Am field. Mario Moreno in 15th, trying to have his way. He's got Sander Costins up ahead of him, just behind Joshua, trying to close up the distance to them. There is the 74, a little bit further down in this race, just trying to figure out where the drive is going to come from to move forward, but it is going to be Mario holding a solid run at the moment. DeSantos will be miles up the road, but it's Costins into the back of Mario, and both landing up with a drive-through penalty. Mario and Xander, a bump into the back, an outbraking moment into the NGK chicanes. Mario and Chris DeSantos with a drive-through. Sorry, that is Mario and Xander with a drive-through. Xander into the pits. Mario continues on, but will need to serve that drive-through. Late on the brakes, contact to the rear, and that is all she wrote with a drive-through coming into play. Another one going for the likes of Arno Kraus, who will need to it will be Honor Kraus, yes, with a drive-through penalty as well. So we're starting to see more and more of our drivers picking up those penalties right towards the end of the race, and we're heading into the last 6 minutes. This is now or nothing. A drive-through for anyone towards the front is detrimental to being on the podium, and I don't think anyone has got enough breathing room away from one another to allow for it. So for anyone that is curious of why the names would be in red when reviewing cars, it's because if we go back to Krista Santos is currently trying to make his way through. He's on lap 35. Everyone that's in red above him is on lap 36. They're a lap ahead of him, and he's trying to fight his way back through the field. So whenever you see the red on the top, it's just because they are a lap down on the rest of the field above them. Just give a bit of an indication whether they've been lapped, not lapped, carrying on their race, and see where they work out at this stage of the game. But everyone still working their way forward. Malcolm Pringle looking to pull a rabbit out of a hat here tonight, and it's going to be a good one for him as they battle their way through. And there is a show of our top 5. Malcolm Pringle, Werner Skuman, Warwick Wilson, Willem Buerta, and Noah Hendricks hold on to the top 5. And then Pro-Am, it's Tomaso Pesquero, along with Tiernas Buerta, James Pepper, Jan Engelbroth, and Krista Santos hold on to the top 5. For you, Snake, anytime, buddy. Anytime. It's absolutely wonderful to have the questions getting asked by our virtual grandstand. And once again, absolutely wonderful to have you guys here for round 2 of the RaceFace.Pro iRacing GT3 Championship Season 2. And everyone looking to move forward in this race. Now, it is mental out there, folks. And I want to talk about that because there's a couple of drivers that are going to be feeling it. To talk about how extensive this rain is on iRacing, you can be going through every single corner fine, but there can be the final corner with rain. And as we see, the final corner has got a bit of rain, and then it clears up on the exit. So the drivers are starting to see patches, and you have a weather system that you're able to view while driving to see where those cloud bursts are, where it's going to rain on which part of the circuit. Or if you have a spotter, if you're lucky enough to have a spotter, they can call it out for you and make the calls of where you need to move forward. However, it also does play into effect if you're not reading it correctly. So dark green means that there's going to be lots of rain. Light blue is light rain. Dark blue, a little bit more rain. And as soon as you start seeing red, you know you're in trouble. But to have that while you're going at 200 kilometers an hour and through a field and trying to keep the car out and on circuit, it does become a little bit of a difficult situation for drivers to go out there. But remember, iRacing is also built in the early 2000s when graphics cards were at their simplistic of how they were made. And now it's put a lot more pressure on the CPUs of the drivers as well. So those that usually run 144 frames per second on their triple screens or on their single screen or on the ultra wide, guess what? You're now going to be losing those frames with the maxed out graphics all the way down to 50 FPS. So instead of sitting at 114 frames per second, and that is just as they go on, you're now at 50. That is a complete mental shift for the drivers to think about as well, and will be a consideration for when they practice. They've got to get used to that alteration that comes through. Some actually modify their settings just to turn it down enough that it doesn't play into a little bit of a situation that hurts them, and they can start thinking about what they need to do to move forward. As Joshua Simon and the likes of Mario continue their way through, they will look in the mirrors and see Warwick Wilson and Willem Buerta closing up. Warwick hoping that he could stay ahead at the moment is on dries, ahead of Willem Buerta on dries. Noah Hendricks and Steven Vessels join each other on wet tyres. You can see immediately move out of the way for Joshua, and that wasn't Joshua that moved out of the way there, as he's still onto that of Mario. That was another one of our BMWs opting to lift a little bit and allow it to happen. Mario loses our position to Joshua. He needs to pull the pits for his drive-through penalty. Ben England getting a drive-through penalty. Jaden Uhl getting a drive-through penalty, and Mark Pulser as well. So there is a couple of drivers that need to serve drive-through penalties during the course of this race as we get to the closing stages. With 1 minute to go, third place on the cards for Buerta and Warwick Wilson. Malcolm Pringle has got enough of a run over Werner Skuman, 3 seconds, but third place is going to be mental between these two. Willem Buerta and Warwick Wilson going to push each other to the limit here. Is it going to be the mid-engine of the McLaren 720S Evo, or is it going to be the almighty power, the American brute force, the newest generation of GT3 cars that have come out, and that is the Mustang GT3, trying to make up that crown. Sorry, it's the second newest because the Porsche 992 came out just after it. So the Mustang having to really put the hammer down, and it's going to be Willem Buerta, the RDSA, against Warwick Wilson, who's not going to back down from the fight. Both drivers looking to go that extra mile at the moment to see what they could do to finish up at the top. Werner Skuman 4 seconds off Malcolm Pringle. Warwick Wilson 29 seconds back from Werner Skuman and has got no breathing room with Willem Buerta. This is going to be who can maintain and sustain pressure down to the wire. Tommaso, Tiernis Buerta, and the likes of Jan Engelbrecht are now into the top 3 of our Pro-Am. James Pepper slipping down on those wet weather tyres. It has cost him the race and unfortunately has taken him out of the top 3. Yet again, slipping through it and now trying everything he can to sustain himself and looking for the points. But it is a completely topsy-turvy run for the podium as our drivers make their way through. Malcolm Pringle is going to be more than happy on this one as he's miles up the road. As we quickly take a look to him into the NGK chicane and continues to have a great one. Well done to him. Second was Werner Skuman. You can see he tried to close the gap, but it didn't quite work out as we jump back to our third place battle. And this is on the cards here. Third place in points. And we've got back markers fighting out for position as well. Justin Elof getting a drive-through penalty right at the last. It is going to be a huge run for Buerta on the inside. Warwick now caught on the inside, heading into the NGK chicane. It's going to be a 2-wide situation here. Buerta closes the door across the nose of Warwick Wilson. Buerta up into third, gets a fouled up drive, stuck around the outside. Can he keep it all together over the 14th position of Chris DeSantos? Warwick comes on the inside, drag race down to the line. Buerta and Warwick. It's going to be Buerta ahead of Warwick Wilson. 0.05 across the line. Absolutely mental to close out the running. And for our Pro-Ams, it's going to be Tommaso taking the victory ahead of Tiernis Buerta. His podium run. It has been a long time coming for Tiernis Buerta. From ACC to iRacing, he's finally capturing the gold. And well, finally capturing the silver here. And what a drive on his part for the Pandacity team to go and see 2 of their drivers into the mix. Jan Engelbrecht finishes up in third place. And an absolutely stellar drive right the way through to the end. You couldn't have written a better story, folks. You couldn't have written a better drive. And everyone showed what they could do in some adverse conditions. As we do see the rest of the field coming across the line here at the Nürburgring out in Germany for round 2. And what a mental race indeed. And considering round 2 now done, dusted, and out of the way, there's going to be a number of drivers that will be quite thankful that the rain has gone past. And for others, a big learning curve in terms of when to put on wets and when to put on dries. And for those that were on dries, a mental game out there. Absolutely phenomenal stuff. I'm seriously blown away by the level of talent we've got out on the circuit going and putting on a great show. With that being said, let's take a look at our results for the race and our Pro-Am field as a start. And it is going to be likes of Tommaso Bergelso ahead of Tennis Borto Young, Engelbrecht, James Pepper, Chris DeSantos, Wesley Lewin, Mario Marino, Katlejo Makali, along with Matteo Milan, Robbie Teens, Michael Hudson, Stephen Cakebread, Willem Pinar, Arno Kraus, Ben England, Jacques Trill, Henny Porchita, and Lucan Haynes onto our top 20 as we cycle to our next page. It's going to be Sean Symes, Jen Earl, Sean Berg, Mark Pulser, Rian Porchita, Andre Dures, and Devin Ellis rounding out the field. Devin Ellis being our retirement early on in the race, unfortunately, going and throwing him down the order. That being said, we're going to take a look at our pros and see how that all worked out for them in the race. And it's Malcolm Pringle who took the victory over Vernon Skuman. Willem Buerta managing to get third place just ahead of Warwick Wilson, 0.05 across the line. Noah Hendricks followed by Stephen Vessels, Jans van Rensburg, Justin Elof, Joshua Syme, Xander Costens, Brandon Kutsia, Cameron Abastos, and Liam Swinburne round out the pack. Well, that being said, we're going to go and start having a chat to our drivers, bringing in third place, Willem Buerta, to come and have a chat to us. Willem Buerta, welcome to the commentary box. Third place in class, but can we talk about that finish? 0.05 at the line with Warwick Wilson trying to outdrag you. How was that battle for you?
Yeah, look, it was tough. I had to take a gamble to stay on the dries, and I saw that the lap times of the Oaks and Wets were still 4 seconds slower than me in the dry tire. So I just thought, okay, I'll stick to it and carry on going. Last few corners with Warwick, I just thought, okay, listen, I got to get the proper exit through there, and try and see if I can nail him through the bus stop. And then then I had the back marker through there. I had to try and pass him on the outside so he could cut back in, and it was a close finish.
Now, with the challenging conditions out there, take us through as a driver, because it looked like there was a very thin line for being on the dries to keep it well on the circuit, and for those on wets, they had to come off the racing line to cool the tires down. It didn't look like both ways had the easiest drives. How was it for you riding that Knight's Edge?
Yeah, for me, it wasn't too bad. I still had to stay on my dry line, basically. Just brake a little bit early and use the RPM to slow the car down more. Otherwise, you will just lock up and carry on straight. And stay away from the curbs and the white lines. And like I said, a lot of the hairpins, I was going first gear through it to get the nose to come in. And then you can, that Mustang had so much traction on the exit. So that's where I gained a lot on the Oaks.
Absolutely wonderful. Well, now with the championship, it's looking rather close at the sharp end. What's your game plan heading into round 3 in 2 weeks' time?
Oh, just carry on driving, carry on focusing, and just keep calm, Don't think about the championship, just take a race by race.
Absolutely wonderful. Well, before I let you go to cool down after that tremendous finish, anything you want to say to our sponsor, EG Evolve Simulator Rigs here at RaceFace.Pro, to our drivers and teams that are out on the circuit with you, and more importantly, our fans that stood in the rain, cheering on, shouting their lungs out to see you guys get across the line?
Yeah, I want to say thank you to all the spectators that took on the rain. I saw on the weather forecast it was going to rain. I still pitched up and watched a bloody good race, I think. And thanks to the sponsorships, people. Without these guys, this racing can't be so close and tight. Thank you very much for them and all the organizers.
Absolutely wonderful stuff. Willem Buerta of RDSA Esports capturing third place in the pros and done a stellar job to go and find it out to the line. Absolutely wonderful to have him here. And what a drive yet again to stand at the top. Vernon Skuman, unfortunately, we don't have, who was our second place driver, unfortunately wasn't able to come through. But we do have our first place BMW, Malcolm Pringle. Malcolm, welcome to the commentary box. And what a strategy to pull a rabbit out of the hat last minute to just overcut the entirety of the field, to remain in first place and still break a 3-second gap to Werner Skuman?
Yeah, thanks, Stephen. It was honestly, I think you hit the nail on the head by saying it was a rabbit out the hat, because I took a chance and just thought, you know what, the car still feels fine, the track's wet, but it's working. So, and yeah, and Jean changed over to wets, and I was listening to what he was feeling, and I thought, you know what, I'm actually just going to stick to my gut and go long, and it paid off.
Now, that being said, I mean, this is a monster step forward compared to round one. We got to see you fighting out towards the sharp end in the field, but now the target is on your back heading into round three, considering you have taken the victory here in the endurance round. What's the game plan? What's the foresight that you need for the rest of the championship?
Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. To be honest, probably just keep doing what I'm doing. Yeah, I mean, I might not be the quickest in the field for sure, but yeah, I just try and use a little bit of a different strategy each race. I think that's my main goal, is just to, you know, my goal this race the whole time was I was just consistently saying I'm going to go the guys in front of me +1, the guys in front of me +1. So, and they just didn't pit. So I just didn't pit either. And then eventually they did, and I thought, you know what, I'm actually just going to keep going. So, as I said, it's just strategy based, I think, for me.
Well, it was a absolutely mental game, and what a strategy. If you were playing chess, the rest were playing checkers, and you managed to get out ahead. Before I let you go to enjoy, and I know there's a big fan out in the virtual grandstands that's waiting for you, and going to be a kiss and a hug situation, but anything you would like to say to our sponsor, EG Evolved Simulator Rigs, to all the drivers out on the circuit, to the teams out there that you got to verse, but more importantly, the fans that braved the weather conditions to come and watch out in the virtual grandstands?
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, thanks to everybody. Thanks to sponsors. Thanks to everyone watching. I mean, I think that's the whole point. You've got to put on a good show for the viewers, and yeah, hopefully it's all worth it for the sponsors as well. And yeah, appreciate everything. It's been quite a first two races. I think yeah, it's been a very, very good two races. So thank you to everybody.
Absolutely wonderful stuff. Malcolm Riggle, congratulations on your victory in the Pro and victory overall. A world-class move to get yourself up into the top spots. Wow, oh wow. And what a race out here at Nürburgring. Tienes Puerta saying, can I just go and take a shower now? This was a sweat fest out on circuit. Extremely hot in the rigs. The drivers pushing it to the limit, and it came down to the wire right the way through here in the iRacing GT3 Championship. But with round two under our belts, and we look forward to round three, it's going to be game on with our feature race for round three, which is a double heat situation the drivers are going to have to contend with. They'll have a 30-minute heat one and a 45-minute heat two to contend with, and they'll have to plan out their strategies to move forward. And with a grid inversion, can make things a little bit more interesting for the drivers to fight it out. Congratulations to our pros and pro-ams that slugged it out here tonight, and congratulations to our winners. Now, folks, this is not the end of the racing here at RaceFace.Pro. There is plenty more to come. We have got racing tomorrow night on LMU starting at 8 o'clock. So for any Lamar Altman fans out there, we've got some GT3 racing for you. And then on Thursday, it is the main event, the EG Evolved Simulator Rigs GT3 ACC Championship powered by RaceFace, and drivers looking to fight out for the championship. It is cutthroat across our LMU and our amazing run out at the top. And we look forward to seeing everyone battle their way through. Well, that being said, we did have one person just arrive. He's a bit late to the party, but I think we can allow him on this one, considering he got his second place. He's been fighting for it for a long time. Let's bring in Tienes Puerta of Pandacity. Tienes, welcome to the commentary box. Just early enough before we logged off air But what a drive out there. How are you feeling and managing to put yourself on the podium spots?
That was a lekker drive, eh? I enjoyed that. No, it was good.
Take us
I
through
did
the
not
strategy.
expect it. I really did not expect it. But I just kept my head down and just kept on passing cars. And at the end, I saw that Pro-Am I was in second, just before I got to the first place, guys. So, legendary.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. This stands as your first podium here in the RaceFace iRacing series.
That's correct, yes.
So this is the big one for you. And I know that you've slugged it out in ACC numerous times across numerous divisions and have had the championships taken away from you, but you've also fought hard towards the championships. What's the game plan you've got now, carrying the momentum on your first podium spots in iRacing here at RaceFace.Pro?
Just keeping consistent, eh? And listening to my teammate.
That's it. And I'm glad to see the booster seat in the car has helped you out to look out the windscreen a little bit better, just to get those braking markers.
I had to lift it up all the way, but...
Absolutely wonderful. Dennis, before I let you go to enjoy the celebration with the Pandacity team, anything you want to say to the crowd out there in the virtual grandstands, the legendary petrolheads, to our EG Evolved sponsor, just amazing to have them on board, but also to the drivers and to the teams that you got to race with tonight?
Have a competitive racing field in front of us, but I'm sure that everybody will have fun, and thanks to the sponsors.
Absolutely. And I think the saying goes in the Pandacity is be bamboozled. And, well, you definitely did that tonight. Well done, Dennis Buerta, on that second place.
Sweet, man.
Absolutely mental stuff. Well, folks, that's it. That is the end of our interviews, and that is the end of our show. We'll see you tomorrow night at 8 o'clock for LMU, and we'll see you in 2 weeks' time at Monza for our feature race. It's going to be a 30-minute plus a 45-minute race. It's a double heat situation. It is chaos incarnate. It is a lot of fun. And we'll see you next time. But ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, make sure you hit that subscribe button along with the bell notification icon and leave a like. Let us know what was your favorite part of the show and the amazing racing that has gone on around the circuit. And we look forward to seeing you returning tomorrow. My name is Stephen Koenig. Big thank you to Tim on the cameras, Jim, who was calling our green flag and our checkered flag, and to all our admins and stewards working in the background. And lastly, and not least, is our amazing sponsor, EG Evolved, for being a part of the RaceFace family, keeping the servers alive, keeping us going, and keeping the racing in South Africa marching forward for all your simulator needs, whether it be road, track, or even air. Well, they've got you covered across the board. Folks, wonderful to have you, and we'll see you next time. Like always, a good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and good night, everybody.